just can't hide it.
I know. I want you.
I want you. It's Friday. The draft is happening next week. There's not much to talk about, but we gonna be off these rails.
We're gonna do rails to go off rails. Lord Taco, do you know how many tacos I can buy with that? Oh, praise be the almighty dollar and taco. I love you.
Someone in the chat.
Johnny John John!
Someone in the chat before the show said, shout out to Judas for the 4-day weekend. That's a
nice.
That's a clutch joke. That's a Catholicism joke.
Do people get Monday off because of Easter?
Some teachers do. But nope.
Yeah, go.
Okay. Oh baby. Ooh, we here.
Well, stay up.
You in the right direction. Welcome to another edition of the Grossi Perna Show. I'm Tom Grossi. That's Brandon Perna, and this is a G. A B.
Yeah. Cool.
And that's our show.
All you gotta do is betray Jesus for a 4-day weekend?
Yeah.
Dude. I could literally have unlimited weekends.
I mean, there's not gonna be only so many people you could betray, I guess.
I'm gonna make a deal with Jesus.
I'm just saying, how many
keeps coming back so I can betray him for more weekends.
I feel like there has to be a.
No, I think Jesus is pretty chill. Be like, yeah, you know what? We do deserve more weekends. You're right, Perna.
But I feel like at some point they're gonna be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't trust Brandon Perna anymore.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like, no, guys, totally good this time.
When did Jesus create the Easter Bunny? That's the real question.
I think it was 1963.
Yeah. I love how like the two most religious holidays have these completely fictitious characters surrounding them. Santa Claus.
What do you mean fictitious characters? What do you mean?
Santa Claus, the Easter
mean
Bunny,
fictitious characters?
And Jesus. Gotcha.
I love how you're just like, let's get this out of the way on Good Friday. Like, let's get.
I'm gonna eat so much meat today. It's gonna be sick.
I didn't think you were observing Lent.
No, I eat extra red meat for all of those who can't today.
Mm.
Right? Is that how it works? If you're a heathen, you've got to pick up the slack.
Mm. So what do the Chiefs do?
The Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, you constantly call them Satan.
Oh, yeah. They're going somewhere warm today.
Mm.
They're going to have a naked seance.
Oh.
Yeah. Probably going to sacrifice some innocents.
Oh.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes' hair looks pretty solid though. He's got the new do. I saw that when I was gone. He's rocking with that.
Who is?
Patrick Mahomes. He's got like the.
Oh, he actually looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
Looks pretty good. This is what we really want to talk about a week away from the draft. Is what does Patrick Mahomes' hair look like?
Yeah, no, he looks solid. If he looked dumb, I would say it, but he got rid of his 15-year-old boy haircut, and now he looks like a man.
You said you needed.
Very complimentary of Pat. Very complimentary of him.
That's true. Yeah, there's a few things to talk about. We're gonna dive a little bit into the Aaron Rodgers conversation that occurred yesterday during the Pat McAfee show. We are officially less than 1 week away from the NFL draft, which is nuts. Oh God, what?
No, just this made me laugh.
What are you guys doing on the weekend?
I would never disgrace baby Jesus. Never disgrace baby Jesus. That's the vibe I want to give, though, Blosh. You're right.
What are you doing? Oh, just going to hit the town in some nativity scenes.
Scumbag desecrating a nativity scene. Blosh. All right.
Yeah. So Aaron Rodgers doing the thing. Puka Nacua has some comments about Brock Purdy that we're going to talk about. Sean Payton said they're going to go after a running back. I know that's the biggest shocker. We're going to talk about all of that. But let's talk about Aaron Rodgers, because you and I have talked about him on the show a few times, in these past, few months. It was it was before I went away. So it was about a month ago, right?
Sure.
Where there was all of this, what's Aaron Rodgers going to do when he's still in play for the Giants and the Vikings? And we didn't hear diddly squat from Aaron Rodgers. There was nothing. And I brought up the potential that maybe this is kind of just a media narrative that's getting pushed, right? Because we don't know what Aaron Rodgers, he hasn't said a word, right? So you got people taking pictures of him standing on a beach, looking melancholy. But maybe that this is just a fabricated thing, and it's just kind of get some clicks before the draft. And then he goes on McAfee yesterday, and there is already this assumption, and our expectations were too high, that something was going to be said.
Yeah.
Right? Then we're talking about there was the our expectations that something, we were going to learn a piece of information. That's on us.
Oh, so stupid.
You there was a graphic that you were like, this kind of looks like a retirement graphic, because they were hyping it up of look at all of his accolades and all this. And he gets on the show, and basically nothing is really confirmed for Aaron Rodgers. He goes, I'm open to everything, attached to nothing. Dolphins are in the Bay. The Jets suck, and Aaron Glenn hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. But it was at that point where I was like, okay, this one I'm going to put on you, Aaron, because he did say some things, and I want to kind of be careful here, because listening to Aaron Rodgers for years, this is something that will happen. He went on McAfee yesterday, and he was explaining that there were some personal things going on with his inner circle. And so I do want to be sensitive, because maybe somebody's sick, or somebody's going through a tragedy or something like that, and want to be cognizant of that. However, I do think going on the Pat McAfee show and not really saying, it could have been an email, right? It could have been hey, haven't made a decision yet, open to anything. That's it, right?
Yeah.
But instead, it was that happened, and then it was, let's crap all over the Jets, which was great, because then old tweets started coming up saying a face-to-face meeting is always better than a phone call, which is phenomenal.
So good.
Because Aaron Rodgers basically complained that he flew over to New Jersey on his dime, and he told the pilot, I know. When
How could you afford it on your own dime, Aaron?
When I'm sorry, was sitting there watching that, when he goes, I'll play for an easy 10 mil. And I'm just that would be my retirement, and I would never have to work a day in my life. He's like, guys, I'm not asking for much. It's just 10 mil. It's fine.
And honestly, what bothered me even more about that is that he said 10 M's.
Yeah, he did say 10
I'd play for 10 M's. Yep. You know who says shit like 10 M's? Guys who've already made $100 million fucking dollars.
It's fair.
10 M's.
I'm just a little 10 M's.
I'd play for 10 M's. Yeah, and that's good. You're not worth a giant contract. You're worth probably more than 10 M's as a quarterback.
Sure.
To be fair. But yeah.
Get out of here, Todd. Get out of here.
It was incredibly annoying.
But he flew, real quick. So context.
Thank
you. I appreciate it. So he flew over to New Jersey on his dime. He made sure that people knew that. And basically he told his pilot, hey, go back and swing a couple beers. This is going to be a few hours. Maybe we'll go out and get some dinner, the whole 9 yards. And by the way that this story is being told, if you've ever watched The Office, when Michael goes in and winds up quitting from Dunder Mifflin, right? And he's telling the story, and it's the worst story ever told. And he's like, turns out I wasn't even in the right building.
Yeah.
That's how this story was being told. But basically, he goes in there, and he's sitting there with Aaron Glenn, of course, the former defensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions. And he goes, either he's in there for a second, he runs out of the room, he brings the GM back in and goes, so you want to play football? And he's like, yeah. And then he goes, well, we're going in a different direction at QB. And
I hope to God that's what Aaron Glenn did. If Aaron Glenn did it just like that, he will have my respect for eternity. For eternity.
Yeah. Hey,
But I have a hard time believing that's exactly how it went down for some reason.
But regardless, he then was very upset because Rodgers like, you could have just called me and told me that we were moving on.
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to pick my brain about the team, what have you. And now and he goes, the GM called me later and was he basically was crapping on Aaron Glenn and was saying, it wasn't professional and it wasn't like all this stuff. And I just found it interesting because I do not doubt that Aaron Glenn probably was like, we don't want this. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the GM was like, we don't want this either, but I don't want to look like the bad guy. And Aaron Glenn is like, I was with the Detroit Lions. I will happily be a bad guy to Aaron Rodgers. And just go in and be like, yeah, we don't want you there, buddy. And it just, the way that it was told just came off of very like, and I was like, okay. And then he's like, we've spoken to a lot of teams. But then when McAfee was like, well, which teams? He's like, well, I'm not going to get into specifics, but I talked to Brian Dable and I talked to KOC. So, and of course he's had a lot of communication with the Steelers. I can't imagine there's been a ton of teams that have reached out. I don't think that is the case. I think that he probably did talk to KOC at some point, right? Because they have a relationship. Probably talked to Brian Dable at some point. And McAfee at one point asked a question directly saying, if you're going to play football, is it likely going to be for the Pittsburgh Steelers? And he didn't close that door. They talked about working out with DK Metcalf. So at the end of it, we didn't really learn anything except that Aaron Rodgers hates Aaron Glenn and he's willing to play for $10 million. Someone go sign him.
Yeah. And he hates our time. He really has no respect for our time at all.
It's true.
He contradicts
silver though.
Half of what he says almost immediately, which is hilarious. And what I learned about Aaron Rodgers is, because I went into watching that interview not thinking I was going to make like a video about Aaron Rodgers and how annoying he is in interviews. But I thought, okay, I'm going to make a video about him announcing he's retiring.
Sure.
Or that he, even if he doesn't say he's going to the Steelers, that he's committed to playing football this year. Like, I can make a video about that. What I learned was he had no intention of clearing any of that up for us.
Yeah.
Also, I say that to say I went in that with like an open chakra, if you will. My heart was open to Aaron Rodgers. I didn't want to be a hater after watching that interview.
Sure.
And I think you need to say that because a lot of times people have angles before they go into shit. I just wanted to make a good video. Had no choice but to be like, this is bullshit. It really is bullshit. But what Rodgers is to me is somebody who I think you can have a lot of fun talking to, as long as you're not talking about anything that relates to him seriously. You wanna joke with Aaron Rodgers about shit. Him just talking about like other guys like DK Metcalf, like hyping them up, Ashton Genty. There was a lot of fun moments in those conversations. I don't think Aaron Rodgers takes like the world around him too seriously. That's where you're like, oh, he's a normal guy, a little snarky, you can have fun with. If it's anything about him where there might be any sort of criticism about Aaron Rodgers, he turns into a different fucking person, like almost instantly. Fun guy, insufferable guy. Fun guy, insufferable guy. Like those are the two lines you walk with Aaron Rodgers in the course of a single conversation. And I thought Pat McAfee, I think their show does a pretty good job talking to guys like Rodgers. They had a great conversation with LeBron James, even though LeBron James was just there to talk shit about Stephen A. Smith. Aaron Rodgers was just there to talk shit about the Jets, and that was hilarious, even if I think he's wrong in the situation. And I think McAfee does a good job of navigating a decent interview and conversation while filleting Rodgers just a little bit to keep him engaged along the way. And the guys, on Pat's show, they have good questions that are a little more fun, a little less serious, and they keep like the overall tone of the whole interview like pretty good. But like, fuck, man, if you say you're gonna clear it up for us, and then you just go on these diatribes about all of this stuff that's not actually relevant to you making a decision, that's annoying. And again, what he did is he set this bar that makes it hard to criticize what he said on there because he prefaced it like every 5 minutes with his inner circle and there's stuff going on there.
Sure.
And it almost feels like he's trying to set us up for later down the road of how serious something's going on.
That's
so we
what
can
I'm
throw
saying.
It back in our face.
Correct. Literally, that is why I'm like, I want to be like sensitive, but this is
like,
also...
oh, you criticized me for my mother's dying. Like it's like that level of like he's ready for it.
So yeah, that's why I'm like, I want to be careful here because I just want to like, again, the clearing up, and this is the problem too. Like, the expectations are being set, right?
Yeah.
When McAfee announced that Rodgers was coming on, huge spike in the ratings, like huge, like people are interested and be like,
he
this
knows
is
why
it.
we're there to watch him too.
Correct.
That's what's infuriating.
So it's, again, if you're there to clear it up, and I was even after all these Aaron Rodgers watches, I was like, maybe, just maybe, similar thing, like maybe he's just going to retire. We haven't heard anything from, but nope. And that still might wind up being...
It might happen, but he might not know yet. And that's fair to him. Like,
that's very fair.
I'm like going through like, business stuff on my end where I'm unsure about a lot of things. And I understand how hard it is to like make some of these big decisions.
Yeah.
And I think we'd be fair about like, hey, I don't know if I want to play. I don't know if I want to retire. I get that. I really do. Rodgers isn't currently good enough to drag this shit out for teams to wait for him, right? Like, it's not like the Steelers or whoever's like, man, if we get Rodgers, we are actually a contender. He's not at that level anymore.
Not there right now.
We watched it last year. There was an injury the year before. There can be more injuries going forward. Like, that's the other part of it. It feels like he doesn't realize that part of it. And when he's telling that Jets story, and he was like, their whole point was like, they wanted to talk about the messaging of how I exit, the Jets. And I told them I don't give a shit about the messaging.
Yeah.
But then he goes on McAfee to tell us how everybody reporting on him is wrong and all the messaging is incorrect.
Yep.
They asked you, how do we want to... Fuck you. That's what he's told them. I don't care.
Yeah, again, like...
I love it, but
I would not want to be in the position where like everybody is waiting, and he made it very clear, like he's not holding anyone hostage, like there's no deadline or anything like that. So my assumption is the Steelers, like, they're probably going to be looking for a quarterback, right? I don't think that's a huge shocker.
They will 100% draft a quarterback.
Yeah, they're looking to draft a quarterback, especially after what we heard yesterday, that it seems like, hey, there's something going on in the personal life. Go and deal with that. Go do what you got to do. The Steelers and everybody else are just going to move on in the meantime. So, like, maybe this is going to get sorted out post-draft in the summer, maybe training camp. Who the hell knows? Sorry, continue.
I was going to say, I feel sorry for whoever is in Aaron Rodgers' inner circle.
Not going on
inner circle, I swear to God, like 38 times in that interview. Like, man, that is a circle I don't want to be. It's like the meet the parents.
Meet the parents.
Circle of trust.
That's it. Outside of the circle.
Watching you, Greg.
Most likely to have a sophomore slump. I mean, Jane Daniels has protection on the left side, which is nice now, but maybe it's gonna be tough to replicate the same success. I mean, like there'd be pretty high expectations, maybe, because I feel like
the highest expectations going into year 2. I think Bo Nix, he's got a lot to live up to.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, Aaron, and that's the funny thing about Aaron Glenn. Like, players love that dude.
They do.
Players love Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
It's hard when you become the guy people aren't bending over backwards to accommodate. Because like you get used to that.
If this was Bill giving Perna a fitty.
Bill! I'm gonna buy a cigar with that, Bill.
There you go. Do you want to play the clip before?
Oh, I'm gonna find a good one for Bill.
It just seems like
make him come. No! They're Minnesota Vikings crying on the field.
That was worth waiting for.
That was
worth waiting for. If you had this 2 years ago, like pre-Aaron Rodgers injury, this is a much bigger story, right? I mean, we waited this amount of time the last time because he came out and was like, hey, I intend to play for the Jets. Like when everybody was watching McAfee, there were like over 100,000 people on the YouTube live stream. And then it didn't happen until the week of the draft where he actually got traded and they, all the leverage was done.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, I'm glad to at least know, at least at the moment, it doesn't seem like this is going to get wrapped up anytime soon. Like, it doesn't seem like there is going to be a conclusion to this, because I'm not going to lie. Like, when I left 2.5 weeks ago, I made a video. Like, it was like, all right, if Aaron Rodgers' reaction signing to the Steelers, and obviously didn't have to release it, but it seemed like things were a little bit more imminent. And I don't blame Aaron Rodgers for that. Like, that is a media thing that we were talking about before, because if he's not saying anything, what have you. Yeah. But now at least I know the timeline is not anytime soon, or at least that is how it's being portrayed. And so I think we can all just kind of move on with the draft. And I don't know how much of a big story this is going to be, if he winds up signing with the Steelers.
No, Steelers fans every day want him less and less. And a lot of Steelers fans already didn't want him. Like,
yeah,
if the Jets won more than 5 games last year, he would have more value.
Sure.
They lost more games with Rodgers than with Zach Wilson. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, there's so much baggage that goes with him that's documented that we know now. And he can't be this person who says, like, who gets pissed off about stories and narratives coming out about him when he refuses to talk to anybody for 2 months.
Sure.
You can't be like, well, I didn't say anything to anybody. You're a quarterback in the NFL. You've done it for 20 years. You know how this bullshit works. And you have talked to teams. So maybe your inner circle's not leaking stuff, but people are talking to those teams about what you might have said to them. So information's going to come out about you. And if you want that information to be crystal clear, then you can address it along the way. But like,
yeah,
just disappearing and then coming back, and like, don't act like everybody else is the problem when you specifically contribute to it by not saying anything.
Which again is his right to do so.
It is,
but then
it's not his right to then bitch about it afterwards. Exactly. Well, I guess it is his right. It's all of our right to bitch. That's what I'm doing right now, Tom.
Complaining.
But like, it's just annoying. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I texted, like, I told this to like Will and Johnny yesterday. I was like, I was just genuinely annoyed by what he had, the whole thing yesterday. Because I had Will ready to go, like, let's crank out a script.
Sure.
I had like 2 paragraphs kissing Rodgers' ass about how good at football he was already written, because he was. I think that's what really pisses me off, is I genuinely was a big fan of Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
Loved watching him play. And if he retired, we could just go back to talking about, damn, that dude was an assassin with the
Hall of Fame, Packers Hall of Fame
to watch.
All that.
So
yeah.
So sick.
I just feel like at this point, they talk about like legacy afterwards and like his stint with the Jets and like everything that has
he's
happened.
Tarnishing it every day.
I mean, again, what he's done on the field, like just as a Packers fan, was incredible.
We'll forget about this shit.
Legitimately,
in like 5 years.
Yeah, one of the best. And now it's just like, even if Aaron Rodgers retires, after all of this, this upcoming summer or something,
he should retire.
It's just gonna. I think it's gonna take a hot second to be like, okay, take a year and then we'll kind of come back and visit this.
It'll take like a handful of appearances on Pat McAfee show where he doesn't bring up COVID or the fact that the world owes him an apology for that whole situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's a.
And again, I get it. He was a lot of people were put in precarious situations about it through that whole year. I understand it. But Rodgers pretends like he didn't bring that up on himself by lying to everybody. You know what I mean?
And like, I don't know.
Rodgers. When he's right, he's also wrong.
There was an attempt to move on. And it was like, okay, let's just.
Nobody was even talking about that yesterday. Nobody was even thinking about it. He brought it back up.
Every day.
Yes, fuck.
In conclusion, Aaron Rodgers has not made a decision. Who knows when their decision is going to be made? Attached to nothing. I feel like saying I'll play for 10 mil is a little bit of advertisement of, if teams want to call me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to get anything anytime soon. So who knows?
Now, somebody did retire that I did not see coming, and that is Saints tackle Ryan Ramczyk. If the Saints needed anything less than more uncertainty heading into the draft, I don't know what it is, but Derek Carr, that situation's weird, and now they don't have a tackle. Now Ramczyk is dealing with it's like a knee cartilage injury that's been going on and off that he's fought through since I think like 2021. And it's limited his time playing over the last like couple seasons. So he just can't play at the level like he wants to. So he's going to retire. Ramczyk was a great pick. He's somebody I followed closely because the Broncos drafted Garrett Bowles and Ramczyk went after him to the Saints. That was in that all-time great Saints draft class. And now at pick 9, you're unsure about Derek Carr. Also, if Premier Tackle's there for you, I was like, they're going to take a quarterback. Now they might have to take a tackle. Like, I don't know what you do first.
Yeah. First of all, Perna got a fitting.
And douche history. That won't get me in trouble.
In terms of, I mean, we talked about this during the mock draft that we did on Wednesday, right? I think the Saints' best interest is to not draft a quarterback because, like, we've been talking about ripping off the Band-Aid for a little bit, but going and getting like a premier tackle who then whoever is going to be your quarterback for this season and next season's, like, hopefully you're going to be protected. I feel like that's the way that they should go. And especially I know more folks are higher on some QBs for next year, unless like their option is Shadur and like they really want him. But it's in that situation of like, how good of a position are you putting him in if the offensive line, you know, there's going to be some question marks. And then also there's a whole bunch of question marks about the Saints regardless.
Yeah.
So,
there's a very low percentage of this that is smiles and glory holes. Very low percentage.
Honestly, I just want to watch Jerry Jones and Aaron Rodgers talk for an hour together. That would be entertainment.
I would love that. Aaron Rodgers, that'd be something. 9 and 8, I feel like is where the ceiling would be, but you know, be competitive. But for like the Saints, when we mentioned this during the mock, they're in like that weird position. They're obviously like at a top 10 spot. They have a few needs. It's not just one, and it's just a matter of, do they love a quarterback so much at 9 that they're going to go and grab him there? Because after the Saints, you know, I don't know when another quarterback gets picked until you're looking around the Steelers.
Steelers taking a quarterback. Now, one of those quarterbacks is that's going to be available is Jaxon Dart, Tom.
It's true.
Now I saw some like headlines, Jaxon Dart getting compared to Bo Nix. So then my radar goes off, right? Somebody say Bo Nix? What are you saying about Bo Nix? They are, in my opinion, very different quarterbacks. The headline, though, is about, like, I think Jaxon Dart, to people who start to watch him, is better than they thought he was. And a lot of people heading into last year's draft evaluations, same thing happened with Bo Nix, where once they watched him play, they're like, oh, there's actually something to him. Because the whole knock on Bo Nix before, like, you watch the football is, oh, he just throws checkdowns.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so I think it was Dan Orlovsky was talking about it, and I was like, because I don't think Bo Nix and Jaxon Dart are similar quarterbacks in terms of how they actually play the game. And I was like, am I stupid? Like, why are we comparing Jaxon Dart to Bo Nix? Because I think they're very different.
Yeah.
It's just the story around him and that he's better than they thought. And I think Dan Orlovsky compared him to Jalen Hurts in terms of stylistically how he plays his game. And I think what the Steelers are going to have to figure out, like, is Jaxon Dart the guy that they can put in their system and succeed with?
Sure.
If like you're comping him to Jalen Hurts, I think then you got to look at Jalen Milroe, who offers a lot in terms of athleticism.
Yeah.
But you've got to fine tune the passing tools, and they're probably there as well. So I think the biggest question isn't like where Shedeur, like if Shedeur falls there, I think he's still above those guys. But it's like, how do these teams evaluate that those guys outside of that? And I think that'll be fascinating for this draft class. And usually the back 10 picks are the least interesting. They might be more interesting this round.
Because like it's like what you said. Like I think that you're going to potentially see some teams to get that, fifth round. Sorry, it's not fifth round. Good God.
Fifth round trade up. You get that extra year, and some of these guys might need that extra year.
Yeah, exactly. So why not? You pull a Lamar Jackson, you go and you trade back at the end of the first and grab him.
Yeah.
Which NFL player would make this? Which NFL player would make the most? It's Gardner Minshew. I feel like
he would be the world's first NFL billionaire just for jerking off for strangers. Guess who he passes? Deshaun Watson in career earnings after jerking off.
First one. Hey, hockey playoffs this Saturday. Did we break you? He's short-circuited.
I had a point, but then Zach did derail me, and I'm trying to find it again.
QB's at the end of the first round. The back 10 are usually boring, but now it could be interesting.
Yeah. No, you put in, the Broncos, they're going to target a running back in this draft. Correct. We know that. So then I started watching some Broncos.
Not anymore, I don't think, JT.
Sean Payton, George Payton clips, and they talk about kind of like, now that you have expectations to succeed, how does that kind of change your draft philosophy?
Sure.
And George Payton was just talking about, and I think we forget this when we're looking at the draft. As fans, we're looking at players who can make immediate impacts for our team. And he's like, we're debating guys who can come in and play for us right away versus somebody you look at who you can actually develop. And it maybe is not a guy you're looking at for this coming season, but are there raw skills, their work ethic? Can we turn that into a player who is ultimately going to outperform somebody who is viewed upon as like an immediate impact? And I think like good teams have a good mix of guys that you draft who are very good right away, and then guys that it's like, oh, sophomore season, that receiver that they took in the third round is actually making an impact now.
Yeah.
And that's like the real art of the NFL draft, I think, is balancing those things. And then it was the Lions GM, Brad Holmes, saying like how teams can get in trouble chasing needs in the draft.
Yeah.
And we say that every year, like it's the philosophical best player available, or is this the best player available for our need? But how impactful will that player be over X amount of years? And good drafters, they're thinking 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, every single draft.
I mean, listen, as a fan of the Green Bay Packers who has lived with best player available mentality, literally my entire fandom, like that's the way that they've always done it, right? It's best player available regardless. And if it fits with a need, I mean, look at when Aaron Rodgers is drafted, look at when Jordan Love is drafted, and they got a whole bunch of crap both times for it. And the Aaron Rodgers one worked out pretty well. Jordan Love, so far, so good. We'll kind of see how great it gets. But in terms of just where they are, or where teams are, it's the very, very common phrase of like the worst time to, go out and get a quarterback is when you need one, right? Because you're put into a situation. Like, look at this. We're talking about the Saints right now. The Saints need a quarterback. Like, there's no doubt the Saints need a quarterback. The problem is they need offensive line. The problem is they need some other position groups as well. And so when you're at this point, especially when it comes to a franchise quarterback, which is usually where your team lives and dies, that's when teams get desperate and they start making moves that are not necessarily in their best interest, but they're like, hey, we need to take a shot on trying to bring this guy in because we need somebody to throw the football. And I feel like
to that, Bo Nix. We needed a quarterback.
Yeah.
We took the last one available.
Yeah.
And it's working out.
So far. We'll see.
And it will continue.
We'll see. Ryan, Howie got a bunch of crap these past couple years because he's just picking like big name guys. right? And just like names that like the media like hypes up and is very familiar with. But I don't think that you could really doubt his impact like as a drafter. I mean, like obviously this past draft was pivotal, but I feel like they have just been in some really good positions, and I will give the Eagles a ton of respect, especially what they do with their secondary last year, because their secondary needed to get fixed, and good God, did they nail that draft. Getting Mitchell and DeJean, like it was Cooper DeJean had a pick 6 in the Super Bowl, right? So yeah, guy knows how to draft, and that's why like GMs, when you have a good GM, you hold on to those guys. When we were talking about Sirianni being on the hot seat, or Perna talking about him being a Hall of Fame coach, the one person who was never on the hot seat was Howie. Very much.
Nick Sirianni to the Hall of Fame, my friend.
So,
it's going to go down as the greatest sports take in NFL history. Brandon Perna predicted Nick Sirianni to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It will be remembered. It will be etched in history. People will talk about this one day.
Speaking of Brock Purdy, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great transition.
This is funny. I didn't see this.
Yeah. So Puka Nacua, he was on a podcast with Julian Edelman, and he was talking about Brock Purdy's contract number, and basically said that it should be around like in the $40 million per year range. So he said mid 40s. He says if they don't, he said, I feel like he's a smart guy. I have a chance to still be in their window. I think if he goes for 50 million plus, then that window closes, right? So of course the 49ers, we are talking about quarterback waiting games. We're still waiting for them to sign or re-sign Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy in that good old contract year is going to get paid a bunch of money. But the question is, what kind of money is he going to get paid? Is he going to get paid the going rate for brand new quarterback contracts, right? Of Dak Prescott and $60 million, or even a Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence at $55 million? Or is he going to take a significant discount and go for, $40-45 million per year?
Yeah, it's you don't really get players commenting on other players' contracts like this.
You don't.
And it's coming from one of the most innocent sources in the NFL, right? Puka Nacua. Yeah. He doesn't mean any sort of like disrespect or have like a negative motive, really. Yeah. But him saying like Brock should take 45 million a year, or the Niners are going to be outside of their window, it's really funny. And you don't get sound bites like that very often.
You don't.
I think the problem with Brock problem with Brock Turdy is he's shit, Tom. Fucking turd eating shit is turdy. Brock Purdy has outplayed his contract basically more than any player in NFL history next to Tom Brady, right? Yeah. Last pick, 6th round pick. 49ers, they got used to paying him the cheapest possible rookie salary on earth. It is nothing. Mm-hmm. So in terms of a guy who is owed back pay, it's Brock Purdy. It just becomes a question of like, where's Brock Purdy's head in all of this? Like, if you were the most underpaid player in the NFL for the last 4 years, I don't think taking a discount is at the top of your
I don't think it is. I mean, like,
I don't think it's crazy for him to ask for the max money, because he performed so much more. So it's so significant to where you drafted him. He's earned it.
Literally the last pick of the draft. But
also, is he a guy for 100% is going to elevate your team in crunch time? We don't know that for sure yet about him. There's a lot to support it, and then there's a lot to be like, there's a ton of talent on that team. Who's Brock Purdy without all of that talent? And I think that's what Puka's kind of suggesting.
I feel like he also mentioned like they have Fred Warner. So as long as they have Fred Warner on the other side, like they'll be okay, just talking about like dynamic playmakers. But I feel like for the 49ers, they're just in this very weird spot too, because obviously free agency was not kind to them, right? Yeah. Like they lost a bunch of players. And unfortunately for them, like when Trent Williams goes, like that offensive line is going to be in a bit of trouble. And I feel like that there's some older guys where the window is not super duper wide open. So like, I don't disagree with Puka here of like, hey, I don't think this is rocket science. Say the cheaper that you pay your franchise quarterback, it's going to give you the flexibility with other contracts and to sign other players. I don't think there's any hot take there. I agree with you 100% though, especially because, you and I are both pretty like pro player when it comes to, getting your money, especially from these NFL teams. And Purdy, you make an excellent point in terms of overperformance for his contract. He literally was the last pick in the draft and has been their starting quarterback and has brought them to like Super Bowls. So I think at some point, you could go, hey, this is what's best for the organization is to pay Brock Purdy less money. But Brock Purdy, I don't know how much he's going to see it that way.
Yeah.
The question is there another team that would go out there and give him that mid 50s, even, $60 million for Brock Purdy? That's an interesting question.
Yeah. It's weird because I don't think you want a quarterback, and I'll get to you, Nugget, about Bryce. I don't think you want a quarterback who is eager to give you a discount. You want a guy who believes he's worth the max deal, right? Because, he gonna be Sam. Don't you worry.
Oh, he's not. Good.
Like, the way I look at it is, I myself, I would take less money because I know I need other people to help me out to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the mentality you want from a quarterback. You want your quarterback to be like, I am the alpha dog who's going to carry this team on my fucking back.
Woof, woof.
That's why you give me all the money. Brady was kind of an anomaly there. I'm not like, my own insecurities would be like, yeah, I'll take 40 million. You go sign the best players to keep me looking good because I'm not sure without those guys how good I am. So I think you want Brock to be asking for max because that means he believes in himself. Now in the draft redo video, the Bryce Young, Panthers fans, I love that you're supporting your guy Bryce.
Hell yeah.
But if you go back and you say you're taking Bryce Young over CJ Stroud still, I can't help you. I think CJ Stroud's better on multiple levels. I think he would have been better in care. I don't think he would have been CJ Stroud of his rookie season with the Texans. I think he would have been better for you that year. I don't think Frank Reich gets fired that season because I think you're seeing things from CJ Stroud with the Panthers. And I think if you're going to build the team, you're still going to pick CJ over Bryce Young. And I hope Bryce Young is good. Nobody's rooting for the short king more than me.
Yeah.
Okay. I want the little quarterbacks to be great. I want Kyler Murray to be awesome. I want Bryce Young to be awesome. Russell Wilson, you can do your thing. That's fine. Anybody under 6 foot, I am your number one fan.
I feel like with Purdy, and like that is a legitimate question. Do you think there's a team out there that gives him 55 mil? It's what Jordan Love's making. It's what Trevor Lawrence is making. I'm pretty sure it's what Joe Burrow is making.
Yeah. I mean, I think with the salary cap, the way it increases every year,
I feel like there's a team that does it.
Yeah.
So in that case, the 49ers just have to make that decision because if you're going, and again, we don't know. Like this has been the one story. It's been really quiet. Like, and maybe it's just my circle on the internet of just, I have not seen a lot about Brock Purdy's contract. I've seen a ton of speculation about Brock Purdy's contract, but there just hasn't been a lot of movement, or I haven't seen a lot of movement.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a precarious position that the 49ers are in because they are in this quote unquote soft rebuild. I think that they want to re-sign Brock Purdy. I just don't think they want to give him that max money.
Yeah, maybe it's not max. Maybe it should be like top 3, top 5, whatever it is. And they've let go of enough pieces where you're doing all that so you can pay him. So just get the fucking deal done and pay him.
Sure.
Is the other way to look at that. And like Brock I feel like he's going to be a top 15 quarterback year in and year out. Probably top 10. Last year was just riddled with injuries for the 49ers. But like Brock's solid.
He's solid.
He's right up there with like all the other dudes.
The guys we were just mentioning. Yep.
there's not a lot to like overly criticize. It's just like everybody's like nobody knows how good Brock Purdy really is, and that's only because of where he's drafted. If you just watch him without knowing where he's drafted, you're like, pretty damn good quarterback. Not perfect, pretty damn good quarterback.
I think I think he's a good quarterback. And the thing is, like, good quarterbacks now getting paid a lot of money, and it's a matter of course, like the scheme that he's in and, the old Shanahan system. But ultimately, like the 49ers, like they could rip off the Band-Aid and be like, let's see how much we can potentially get. I just don't see them doing that right now, unless Purdy's like, hey, pay me $58 million a year or I'm not doing this. Which again, I wouldn't blame him.
What if they draft Shedeur Sanders and then just don't pay Purdy? That would be such a crazy move in the draft. I could almost see it happening.
What if the Colts and 49ers just swap quarterbacks? Like, here's Anthony Richardson.
Dude, if Anthony Richardson gave us a full season sample size,
there you go, Leo.
I feel like I could have a better take on him, but
no, there's just an unknown, and there's the Colts would happily take Brock Purdy and be like, okay, please give us some consistency at quarterback. Now, again, like, he's good. Like, Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, and I think he gets significantly overhated. I think it's just a matter of where does the franchise see him and what his value is, because they got all those years out of Brock Purdy for a very, very cheap price. And now I'm sure that that's coming up in negotiations of like, hey, I played on a significant discount for years. Time to pay up now. Yeah. I helped take you to the Super Bowl. Time to pay up. So
pay me.
Pay
me.
I don't
pay me. Don't play me. If I were an NFL agent, that would be my slogan. Pay me, don't play me. Perna Sports Agency. I'll get you your fucking money. Long tagline, but it's powerful.
I was going to say, that's a whole tagline, the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Pay me, don't play me.
I could see you as a sports agent.
Catchphrase for an agent.
You said feet on a desk made out of mahogany wood.
Smoking I want a mahogany desk so bad.
It looked good on you. Also, the Cleveland Browns talked about Travis Hunter. And I'm very curious about whoever drafts Travis Hunter and how they're going to utilize him. Yeah. Because the Browns see him like as a wide receiver. But they said that they see him as like Shohei Ohtani and was like, hey, like, we're not going to put a cap on him. They talked about his endurance, about how he never like leaves the field, when he was in Colorado. And I'm very curious to see how whichever team drafts him plays him, because obviously like you have this weird unicorn of a player, right? Who's a pretty damn good CB and a very good wide receiver, but the NFL is very different, right? And to have, I don't know how much of an injury risk like you are going to allow when this guy is playing multiple snaps on both offense and defense. Like throw him on special teams, that's interesting, but this guy is going to be a top 3 pick, right? Yeah. So I'm very curious just how his career is going to go, and if he's going to primarily just stick with wide receiver, but how often they're going to throw him in on defense. Like, it's just
you can't do it that way, I don't think. I think it has to be the other way around. You have to be a full-time corner, and you go in and you play receiver X amount of snaps every game, because if you're not fully committed to playing corner in the NFL, you're gonna get worked. Like,
it's one of the most difficult positions in the NFL to be a corner.
Yeah, and I don't think you can be full-time receiver and you do like some defensive packages. Like,
you go in there for Hail Marys, right? Like,
exactly. Like, you're in
back there.
Obvious passing situations. Maybe they use you as a safety in certain situations, but like, he's got, if he wants to play both ways, and it clearly he does, starting corner, I think the question becomes, how often do you use him on offense as a wide receiver? He has the stamina to be out there. I watched it at CU. It's incredible. I don't think through the course of a full NFL season, I think he could play both ways probably for 8 games. And then he'd be like, okay, this is starting to be a little different. But I feel like you use him for 20 offensive snaps, and that's still so impressive. That would be like, he's your wide receiver 3. Put him out there for, third down. Use him in a quarter.
Yeah.
Like he's out there you can be creative to keep the defense guessing, but I don't think you can do it flip-flopped.
I've seen a little bit more of this, Stern, and I see like there is some concern about Travis Hunter because I feel like at the end of the day, worst case scenario, you have a good wide receiver, right?
Worst case, yeah.
I think you're going to get a good wide receiver. But at the same time, we're talking about how difficult the corner position is. Wide receivers making an impact year one, they're usually the exception to the rule, right? Especially if you don't have like a defined number one guy. So like he's still going to have to learn how to play wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like you have like the Justin Jeffersons who will come out and be insane. You'll have like the Puka Nakuas who are going to come out and be insane. But at the same time, I feel they're just going to have to figure it out like as it goes. But I can't imagine they're going to be throwing him out on defense because of how difficult the position is.
Yeah.
And so
I think he can be a top tier corner very quickly. I think to be a top tier receiver, he needs some more refinement and some more work. The athleticism's there for Travis Hunter.
You're saying that he could play corner better than wide receiver?
Yeah, he is a better corner than he is a receiver right now. 100%.
I feel like playing him as receiver would probably be this. My question is, if you're just going to draft him for one thing, right? Like if he is going to be one of those things, is he worth a top 3 pick?
For a corner, yes. If your primary angle is using him as corner, yes. Receiver, he's not the best receiver in this draft class.
Mm-hmm.
He's the most athletically gifted,
sure,
which can translate easily to receiver. But he has more to learn to be an NFL receiver than to be an NFL corner. He is so good as a corner. He can cover, he can tackle, he can make dynamic plays, like everything you want. But
I remember. Yeah, Isaiah
if he
Simmons
wants to make more money, he choose receiver. He choose receiver right away. That's where the bread is, the cheddar, the greeny green.
But my point is like if you are drafting him to play one position, right? Corner, I agree with you. If you're saying, listen, you're going to play corner and that's it, then he's worth top 3. Receiver?
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting point, Mike, because I think with Isaiah Simmons, it's about not putting him at the position where he is best at. He's been at Arizona. They've kind of used him like all over the place and never really committed to letting him do one thing really well. And I think you could make that same mistake with Travis Hunter. I think that's fair. But I think like Travis Hunter, you say, your corner, we're going to get packages for you as a receiver. And as we get better at this, we will grow that package.
Yeah.
Plus, like, and we talked about this in the Travis Hunter video, like, you've got to be in one of those rooms. You got to be in the defensive room or the offensive room at practice or, through the course of the week. Like, you got to commit to studying in one of those things because you can't be in both at the same time.
You can't. No.
But I think for the NFL, to have him do both at a high level is better for the game. It will be fun, but you got to, and it might be hard to get this message to him. It might not. I think he'll be very easy to work with. Master one, grow the other area. And if he wants to do receiver, even though I think he's better at corner, like, fine. Whatever he wants to commit to. But he's insane.
Yeah. I just personally call me very skeptical. I just don't know how often he's going to be on both sides of the football. Like there is going to have to be a commitment at some point where it's just like, hey, like this is going to be, and then you could get cute and use, him in different packages. And I feel like if he winds up being the corner, right? Like, and he's like, okay, like he's a CB1, like he's that guy. Then it's also, how much risk are you going to put him at wide receiver, even for those dynamic plays? Because if he gets injured, you are screwed. And just the more often that you're going to be on the football field, especially all those reps on offense and defense, that injury risk is going way, way up for, a top 3 player. So I think you're just going to get some packages that are going to trickle in as, his career begins to develop. But I think as a football fan, like, this is just something that's super interesting to me because I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I'm excited to track his career and what it's going to look like.
If it's the Browns, and I know Denzel Ward has dealt kind of with injury stuff on and off, right? But like, if you put Travis Hunter back there with Ward and Newsome, like, that's a very nice trio of corners to be. I think he can make a bigger impact for the Browns there right away.
Yeah.
I think 25%, I saw that in the comments here, 25% at receiver, I think that's good. And back in the day, I watched Champ Bailey get some reps on offense, right? And I think for a player to be impactful as a two-way player in the NFL, you have to be on the field enough to make that actually work. It can't just be like a play here and there as wide receiver. You've got to be on the field for multiple downs. You've got to be looked at as not just somebody, oh, they're putting him in, we better focus on him, right? You want people to kind of be like, oh, he's out there, rep 1, or down 1, down 2, down 3, next series he's down there again. So I think for him to actually be effective as a receiver, if that's his package, like, he's got to be out there enough where it makes sense. Because if it's just a play here or there, then it becomes almost a gimmick, right? Like your wildcat offense or some shit. And
Taysom Hill and
every now and then Champ Bailey would be on the field and he would make a play, but it was never as cool as we thought it was going to be when he was out there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's going to be a conversation at some point. And you're right. If you go receiver, that's where your money is going to be. And you can make amazing money as a corner.
You make more money as a receiver. Yeah.
But, if you're trying to go for, like, I'm just better in this position. It's interesting.
It will be fun. It would be fascinating to see how his career shakes out.
Yeah. It's Schuster. You're not wrong. But, folks, less than a week, 6 days away from the 2025 NFL draft, and then we can finally stop talking about, what ifs and actually get down to business. Perna, in the meantime, what do you got coming out?
Our Tyler Shuck video's coming out today, baby.
You want to get a haircut soon?
Dude, I need a haircut so bad.
I'll get one soon. It's luscious. There you go. Perfect.
When I'm doing because I do bath with Carm and I comb her hair. I'm a very good dad hair comber, right?
Oh, yeah.
She's doing this thing now because, like, one night I was like just making it crazy. So every night she's like, Dad, make my hair ugly tonight. I'm like, all right, first I gotta get the rat nest out of the back of your head, and then we'll make it ugly.
I've seen it. You are a very good hairbrusher. Get done.
I think dads are good at, like, I like to call them tactical things. So, like, doing a hair, it's like you've got a job, and it is get those knots out of the back of the hair.
Yep.
It might be a little rough around the edges at first, but once you get it down,
you had those curls when you were sitting on the couch. You had the curls going.
Oh, yeah. Changing diapers, tactical. Boom. Dads are good at that shit once they commit.
There you go.
Tyler Shuck, what do you got coming out, Tom?
I'm making videos for next week because I'm leaving Monday night.
Nice.
So for Green Bay. And so tonight is going to be a very, very long Q&A. I'm very excited for Q&A. I've been looking forward to it all week. I'm also streaming WrestleMania both nights. So I'll be streaming that on Saturday and Sunday. There will be a mock draft. If it doesn't come out today, it's going to come out on Monday or Tuesday when I'm gone. So don't worry. There'll be mocks and stuff. I know that I've been slacking a little bit on the draft content because I went away. But don't worry. Next week, live from Green Bay, Wisconsin, I'll be streaming the 25 NFL draft. And we'll see what
nice. Got. Shout out my mod Max, new dad.
Diaper
new
man.
Dad, he's all in.
That's it. But folks, we'll see you on Monday. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tonight. I'm Tom Grossi. That's Brandon Perna. This is GPS. And you have been caught it, navigated.